I am part of SAP's industry and customer advisory division, and I manage clients in the retail and the consumer space. And really happy to be part of this leadership team. And most of the views that I had on why women should have a greater presence in the corporate world has already been, voiced by one of you or the other. But still, I'll go with my views. And as everybody has quoted some thought leader or the other, I would quote another, which is the McKinsey study, which has been happening from the last almost 1 decade. And it has proven and shown that those companies which have higher diversity in their executive boards have consistently outperformed in profitability. And the other side, the flip side of that is those who did not have really had a penalty in terms of profitability growth. And that's just not it. So it's just the most important thing is, of course, the differences in ideas, the differences in backgrounds, thought processes, decision-making processes, and the way women actually are seen to take the whole team forward and not just reward the best performers. That's the whole thing which I think corporate India needs today. Thank you.
The question that I'll come around the table with now is, what was the biggest roadblock that you faced in your career?
And yes, I really resonate with what you just said. When we allow the voices outside not to influence the one inside, then we can really achieve whatever we set out to. But for us to develop that voice inside, it takes a while. And it took me a while. I was one of the first women in my family to get into the workforce. Till then, and I'm not kidding you, 20 years back also, women were just expected to get married, have children, and take care of their husbands. And knowingly or unknowingly, even in educated families, there is this bias of the woman always having to take the second place to the man's career. And therefore, when they travel, you have to look at how do you also travel to the same city. And therefore, you have to then look at either the same company, but in a different role, which may not be the career path that was on an upswing for you, or completely go into a new company. So this is a real challenge when there is a dual career home. So there have been times when I have stepped back, in fact, more than a couple of times. But over a period of time, then you find a balance and you then try to figure out what your career goal is. But this fact of guilt that the social mores put on you, on having to, divide your time between your family and your career is, I think, it was one of the biggest, career sort of slower for me. It was, but happy to know that, happy to, share with all of you that persistence sometimes pays. And when you have the knowledge that as women, when we have children, we have to take a pace back. And that's the time of our career when we are pacing. And then there are times of our career where we get a chance to sprint. So take those chances, move up when you can, and cruise along when you must.
Lovely. Thank you, Sharmila. The second question at the table would be, what program or policy or initiative at your company has contributed significantly to increasing a woman's rise up the ladder? And the third question is, what change do you feel is necessary for women and companies to make in order to increase women at leadership levels, especially in a post-COVID world, right? We are living in a world that has, been turned upon its head. So there's no way we can leave that out of the conversation. I'd really appreciate it if you would include that in your answer as well.
I think the biggest change that we need to see is it's not a hiring topic anymore. Neither is it, having to fulfill a diversity candidate in a specific role anymore. It's more to do with how do we inculcate the feeling of women, feeling the power within them, how to enable them, and therefore creating clear career paths within companies, ensuring that women are able to participate and are able to network within the companies. Most of the time, there is this plum role. It's known only to a very few people. Most of the women sometimes don't even know that they are eligible, they are qualified for such roles. So making it easier to have these roles available and visible. I know that there are job portals in most of the companies, but most of these roles are filled by known candidates or people who have already been groomed. And most of them are usually of the male gender. So how do we ensure that organizations are looking at how is the pyramid of diversity looking like? How can we ensure that managers, when they are thinking of succession planning, have a diverse agenda within that? And how is it that we can have a more diverse executive board? I think it needs to be looked at from that angle.